Hello everyone, how are you guys doing? So, part of me was very hesitant to film this video, partially because I feel sometimes that when it comes to my fashion sense and my ideas and my opinions, they don't necessarily feel solidified or validated by, for example, external evidence in addition to opinions that sort of like back up my opinions and claims, especially because a lot of them come across more intuitive and through the lived experience, especially from, for example, working in retail, shopping, thrifting, and seeing fashion passed down through, generations and all of the styling aspects of it all as well, making me a bit more hesitant to think that there would be interest in what I had to say regarding fashion and my conceptual analysis of it as well, not backed by data. And I think that there's always something that can be contributed to a conversation, and that is what the purpose of today's video is. I was helping this guy yesterday get some items that he was looking for. And this kind of just like reiterated and sort of like repeated like the same cycle of thought which I've been having for a very, very long time. And essentially, it was just that he was looking for a certain kind of a look. He was saying, "Oh, well, I'm looking to dress more like, in a certain way with like trousers and everything like that." And he started like looking up and down at what I was wearing. And I was like, "Okay, well, if you want to dress more like me, I can help you do that." And part of me thinks that that's sort of part of the problem. And the problem always comes down to not like the physical act of what people are purchasing, but just sort of like the way that they go about thinking about these purchases and the rationale behind like what we're purchasing is and who we're trying to be like and what we're trying to achieve and what sort of like um efforts are we trying to make or prove or associate ourselves with or display through our style as well. So for example, videos that take more time to dissect trends and analyze trends and forecast trends and make all of these predictions are catered to a different audience as opposed to someone who is looking more for discovering your quote unquote personal style. I think that it's safe to assume that one person who might be looking on one side of the spectrum might be deterred from information that is presented on the opposite end as well. What I would like to discuss today is that originally I wanted to go into this thinking, what is the way that I can make or formulate advice that everyone can use? I don't think it's necessarily about making advice that can appease to masses. I think that there's definitely a message that can be touched in any sort of like advice and ideas to any group of people. But at the same time, I think that what I wanted to sort of like structure it and phrase it at is, how can fashion not be about clothes? Because ultimately, at the end of the day, when you walk into a store and you see items that you like, and you're seeing this and you're seeing that, you're making all of these decision making. It has nothing to do with the clothes, it has nothing to do with the predictions, it has nothing to do with the forecasting, it has nothing to do with your own personal likes and dislikes. I think it comes back to the idea that when you are thinking about going into the store, purchasing an item, looking at it, it's not so much the item itself, it's about the general preferences of the individual. It's about how you came to the conclusion of whether or not this would be an item that you would purchase or not purchase. I would say some of the more important ones probably would be price as well as quality, just off the top of my head. So when you take all of that into account, it doesn't necessarily feel like it's very easy to give advice about fashion when such factors are, being placed on an internet, which is like, an engine which is being able to be accessed by billions of people. So I would like to give something that you can take that's not necessarily going to be a guide as to what you should and should not be wearing, because how am I supposed to know any of that? You and I have never met unless we have. So essentially today's video is going to be about how you're going to be shopping smartly and what are these fashion ideas and concepts that you can take with you in order to make more conscientious and more fulfilling shopping ideas and purchases moving forward. I do not want to dwell thinking about trends and thinking about this specific item or the specific style, um, because those two things, I don't think that they will be helpful for someone who might not have the same style as me. So obviously, as someone who knows things intuitively, obviously you can make assumptions and see exactly how other styles may influence how you perceive yourself and what you like and don't like about other things on yourself and on other people. But I'm not going to be telling you what to wear, and I don't see myself telling people what to wear in the long-term future, unless it was going to be very specific advice that I think could be beneficial. So with that being said, let's move into it. If you are going to take away anything from this video, it's that you're not going to capture what someone is wearing through what you see, but it's sort of like the logic and the thought process. It's sort of like the chain, the mental management chain that exists that brought the person to combining these items together to make the specific outfit, in addition to what they still already own. So the first thing that I will say is that if you would like to, for example, take a different approach to your shopping, one tip that I can highly, highly, highly recommend is to always shop on sale. This is pretty much the first rule or sort of like philosophy that I can like sort of want to bring onto others. And it's sort of like, if that's the one thing that you take away from this video, I think that would probably be the best takeaway, you know what I mean? Let's say you have your favorite store and there's an item that you like and it's full price. You're not buying it. If it's on sale, you can take it into consideration, and I would even recommend only purchasing it once the item does drop on sale. This also takes into account that you might have to be quick on knowing exactly when the price might drop, when the sales are going to occur, knowing exactly your size, and also having the funds at your disposal for these purchases. It's more than just, I like this, I want it. It's kind of like, do I have the money to buy this? Or when is this item going to go on sale? Am I going to purchase it online? If I collect it and it's not the right size, am I going to be able to exchange it for a different size, different color? Am I going to buy it in multiple colors? These are all the factors that need to be going through your mind when you are thinking about what you want to buy. But the most important thing is that it happens on sale. If you were to break this philosophy, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Let's say you are someone who was looking to, diversify and like build up your wardrobe from scratch, hypothetically, or even just like implement new items. If an item's on sale, you might feel inclined to go get more, and having more items doesn't hurt, because that once again ties to the space that you have. If you have the space to take it with you. You don't have the space to take it with you, don't take it. Those factors are personal and very independent of fashion concepts and critiques that we're making in this video. Shopping on sale, you might want to shop more, and that it can necessarily be a good or a bad thing. If you were to have the same item, one full priced, and the same item when it goes on sale, obviously you will be naturally inclined to go for the lesser option. It ties into whether or not you have for example, the self-control to determine whether or not you going and shopping on this sale is going to make you just want to see exactly how many other items that you can purchase, as opposed to, for example, buying a couple of items full price that you are actually going to wear. So by keeping things on sale, you sort of narrow down your options. And I think that, like I said, I believe I once mentioned it in a previous video, if not, just wrote it down in my journal somewhere. You have to be able to commit and make the decision. The indecisiveness is what's killing you, and the indecisiveness is what's making you hesitate and slow down and then not feel confident. All of those feelings and sentiments will transcend into how you feel about the outfits that you're currently wearing and what you currently own. And in my personal experience, any sale is going to be a great sale. We're going to get into my favorite kinds. So obviously, you have the typical sale from your favorite store. The second sale that I would say is anything that falls within the realm of a discount. If you do not work at a specific store, you do not have access to a specific store, you wait for the sales to occur before you purchase that item. If you do work at that store and you already have an employee discount, you already have a sort of like advantage. And I would say that's kind of how I ended up getting a lot of my clothes from Uniqlo. Example, this wool sweater, which is actually 60% acrylic or 40, but it's not fully wool. That's a completely different video. So let's say, for example, you're not someone who's actually physically working at the store, at the same company, in the same predicament. Another great option would be to ask the person who you know or someone who you are relatively close to who worked at the store to give you the discount, get the item for you. The best bang, like that's the way that you're going to stretch your money further, by getting the best bang for your buck, for ensuring that for whatever it is that you're choosing to purchase, you know, you're getting the best deal. And it sort of like lowers the impact in the sense where it's kind of like, if you are fairly apprehensive about purchasing things because of their cost, by being able to spend less money, you are then putting yourself in a circumstance where you can allow yourself to, you know, I guess alleviate a bit of that pressure to like the item or keep the item. And so by shopping on sale, you're allowing yourself to see exactly just how low everything can get while still in inventory. And then also to lower the barrier of commitment, which is going to put you in a predicament where you might end up with items that you're a bit on the fence about, but by paying less you might be able to make a more informed decision whether or not you keep or you return. I'm sure people are more than happy to offer you a rebate at their disposal, and in return I'm sure that there is something that of value that you can offer as well. But not everything has to be transactional, except for when you're at the cash vault, it's stealing. The next fashion approach that I would like to bring up is going to be thrifting. Thrifting is sort of an extension of the first point, shopping on sale, in a sense where you're able to find a lot of items that exist in, for example, many popular department retail stores that you might be familiar with or might be new to you, as well as items that are coming from different countries and different qualities for a lower value than what you might have found them in their original stores and locations. By thrifting, you find items that are no longer in production, brands that you might be familiar with from your past, items that withstand the test of time, and you're finding all of these for a lower price than exists in a typical retail store. So that is why I will forever be a big fan of thrifting. Thrifting can sort of like, you know, tread a thin line, tread a fine line between getting more bang for your buck and then also over consuming and just like purchasing things for the sake of purchasing things for the sake of the accessibility to the money. I'm very guilty of that. I would like for it to be not so much about the thrifting, the act itself, but sort of like what it stands for and what it represents. Kind of like how shopping retail might inspire someone to have items and garments in their wardrobe, in their closet, that align more with, you know, a certain look, a certain sort of like specificity that you don't necessarily have to go looking for because the brand has already curated a certain kind of image that it wants the consumers to portray. And then with thrifting, what you can take away from thrifting is that thrifting can be a lot more experimental, a lot more creative, a lot more flourishing. You find a lot more items that you might not have ideally gone for in that circumstance. So it's like kind of like giving you a different expectation, and it's kind of giving you a different perspective as to what you can try with an even lower barrier of entry that retail would have given you. So that's kind of how you can go about thinking about it. Don't be so quick to define what it's going to be. Go in with an open mind and be open to new possibilities as well. And that's kind of how the approach will help you narrow things down more intuitively than trying to remember exactly what someone else wore. It's the same thing for shopping on sale. Shopping on sale, it just has to do a lot more with, you know, narrowing down your options. It's about seeing your time as valuable. It's about ensuring that, you know, you're not spending hours trying to make a decision. It's kind of like narrowing down your options so that you can make a decision faster and sooner and be more assured in it, because trust and believe the sales are always coming and the thrift stores aren't going anywhere. So by taking all of that into account, I hope that that will give some sort of like relief and help you understand exactly how it's more so your mentality and your approach to shopping than what you are necessarily shopping for. My third and final tip that I will stand by is going to be you should keep everything. And this is going to be one of the more, I guess, not not a take that I would necessarily find can be heavily agreed with. I think it's definitely depending on what you are looking for in terms of what you are wearing, but I will explain my reasoning. My first reason for why you should keep everything is because I do not necessarily agree with the advice that is widespread stating that you need to get rid of items and then get things that will feel, for example, more you. Like I said before, I think that it's lazy advice and it's kind of like that general advice that you're just throwing at a wall and hoping that it'll stick. And it's not very, I don't think that that helps you come to a point where the individual is looking to you to give them some sort of like clarity and some sort of like understanding of what it is that they want. And then you're telling them that everything that you have purchased so far isn't working out for you. So you need to go get rid of those things and then come back and then find it out for yourself and then go watch my other video where I tell you exactly what to buy, which you probably won't like either. That's my personal take. I don't like that advice. My second reason why I would be an advocate for example, someone keeping everything is, for example, obviously, if you're in within the realm of being able to, the more items that you keep, the more possibilities that will come up. Whether or not is it a possibility that you're comfortable wearing and whether or not is a possibility that you like, those are two separate things. What you like, what you're comfortable in, and what you might look good in, those are three different things. Like those can be three different points in the triangle that intersect at times, and a lot of the times you would hope that they do. I find that by owning more things, you are presented with more options and more ways to, for example, figure out yourself better. By buying more, you're just continuing the cycle of buying anyways. Buying things that feel more you will just lead you back to consuming, which in turn doesn't necessarily make a person stop dead in their tracks and figure out exactly what it is about their outfits that they like and they don't like. It's just that advice that leads back to consuming is poor advice, and anyone's able to consume. You don't need to teach a person how to go and purchase things. You don't need to tell people to buy things because everyone knows how to transact and take a card and purchase an item. So I don't think that telling people to go out and just buy more things is going to necessarily help. It's sort of like when you're there, how are you going to take the precaution? How are you going to take these measures to ensure that what you're buying is going to be more within the realm of what you're looking for? This is a lot of time that you invest into going and looking for these things, whether or not it is in person or online. So that is why I would be more hesitant to get rid of things. Another reason why I would not get rid of my items is just for the simple fact that, like I mentioned before, you have more options, and by getting rid of your clothes, you're just decreasing that option, especially for if you're not knowing what to wear. When we define a basic, I think of a basic as, like, for example, a fundamental of a wardrobe. If you are someone who is more tuned to dressing up more, a bit more glamorous, someone who has a bit more clarity as to what exactly they're looking for in their own style, then this item that might not be considered a basic will be a basic because this is something that's like a pivotal part of what makes my fashion mine and my own touch and taste on it. Because basics, what even is a basic? A basic is a fundamental piece of your wardrobe, a fundamental piece of your wardrobe, capital Y-O-U-R, your. That's what makes it go around. That's what makes it important. That's what makes it special. That's what's going to, like, for example, get you understanding what exactly you need in order to make your outfits in your wardrobe in your closet feel complete. It's not necessarily what is being owned, but it's sort of like, for example, how you are balancing off that with what you already have, and for example, the items that you are looking to purchase as well. So you might not have everything that you're looking for in this exact moment in time, but by, for example, keeping that trendy piece that you had and not judging yourself for it, for purchasing an item because you liked what you saw when it was in your face a bajillion times, combining a trendy piece with a more fundamental basic, a shirt, jeans, or like, for example, some trousers that you really don't even wear, that in itself still makes it a basic. It still allows you to, for example, see what exactly is happening within the scope of your wardrobe. And that is something that I just stand by so much. This is what I mean by you need to take all of these into account and think about these things, because what's in the store is only a physical representation of your preferences and your interests. That always starts in your mind. Thinking about it is the always and always has been the first step. And you're doing yourself a disservice by at least thinking that the clothes are the be all end all and the clothes are the final step. The first and final step would be, for example, figuring out exactly what you like and what you don't like. And you don't need a notebook to do that. You don't need a Pinterest board to do that. Just really just sit down and think about it. Like sit down and reflect and just like look and just like understand and just like know. Look at what you already own and know. My closet's open right now. I can see that I am a very big fan of dark colors. I'm a very big fan of minimal patterning, except for like on small accessories. And I'm a very big fan of shoes and bags. I love solid block colors. I love monochromatic looks. I love tonal looks. And I love shoes that do not get dirty easily, so I tend to stick towards leather and black. That is not something that you can grasp from someone telling you what to buy or feel more like yourself. And that's not something that a brand is going to tell you, because a brand is selling you not only individual pieces, but they're selling you a look and an image and a representation of how they want their consumers to feel and how you can be perceived once you start stepping into the shoes of a person who shops at this store. What I would like for everyone to take away from this as we wrap up this video is that you have so many tools at your disposal to make an informed decision about what you can wear, and all of the advice that is available to you will continue to be available to you as it is constantly recycled and repeated and injected into your brain. These videos are only able to exist because things exist in limited quantities. These videos are able to exist because not everyone is going to be able to have the, for example, disposable income to purchase this exact item or purchase something similar or anything like that. And that's sort of like what keeps the cycle going. So forget all of that. Just like turn your brain off and like forget even the visuals and just picture yourself as the person who is going to get everything that they're looking for out of their wardrobe, out of their fashion, who's going to be able to step into the role of the shoe that they're trying to fill, but without trying to make it so much about the clothes, because clothes don't hold any value. Clothes serve as a function to present yourself in a way that is a reflection of how you feel on the inside, because it is what's on the inside first. It is your beliefs, it is your preferences, it is your value, it is your thought processes that are going to be brought outward. And one of the most classic ways that it'll be displayed is how you dress. So the one thing that people need to do is not think about the clothes, think about the thoughts, and think about the thoughts that are going to get you the clothes that you want. And that's the best way that I can phrase it. So shop on sale, thrift, and keep everything, and I promise you things will start looking a lot better. Goodbye. Ciao.